Book 1, Chapter 5. It's 1972. Zoe and Ben are walking home together. Some way in front of them, unnoticed by the teenage friends, a shaven-headed boy sits outside a fish and chip shop, stamping his 8-holed boots on an empty red and white can. Despite looking like a young adult, he is wearing a school uniform.
I really fancy some chips, Zoe.
Zoe looks at Ben.
I thought you said you're on a diet. I know what it's said, but can't you smell them? Smelling's just tasting without the taste buds.
Zoe looks up the road towards the strangely named, especially since they are utterly landlocked here, Chips Ahoy.
You may want to change your mind. I'm not that fat.
Zoe prods Ben in the stomach with the tips of her fingers. They sink in before being patted away.
I didn't mean that, silly. Look who's sitting outside. He's had it in for you from day one. I thought you tried to avoid him ever since he stole that tag from your tie. Grown a lot recently and, well, you haven't.
Ben stops in his tracks.
Great. Tony. Maybe it's a good thing. You can use him as your willpower. We made a pact to look after each other, remember? If he starts something, I'm going to delegate beating him up to you. Maybe all those colourful badges you've been wearing, the psychedelic scarves and stuff, mean that you're nutty enough to take him on.
Zoe pushes Ben hard in the sternum.
I remember we made a pact to be there for each other. We didn't promise we'd make a conscious decision to put our lives in danger. The only thing I've ever agreed with my mother about is, if you look for trouble, you'll find it.
Zoe gazes down at a multicoloured sunburst badge sewn to her brown and yellow scarf. She motions as if about to kiss it, perhaps an act of defiance against Ben's haranguing. She resists.
Oh, I can't feel like this forever. What am I going to do? Spend the rest of my life scared of people like him?
Zoe takes a breath and groans.
Okay, you stay here. I'll get the chips. I bet he doesn't even know I exist.
Ben squats down and begins to retie his shoelaces. Zoe heads off towards the chippy. Ben hauls himself back to his feet. Tony looks up at her as Zoe reaches the shop. She tries not to make eye contact. He glares down the street, his line of sight finding its target. Ben shudders and stares at the cracks in the pavement. Tony gets to his feet. Ben sneaks a peek in his direction and murmurs,
"Please don't go in."
But Tony enters the shop.
Damn. Where is she?
Zoe walks out with a steaming bag of chips in her hand. An absurdly loud and distorted radio version of Substitute by The Who follows her. Ben sighs. The reprieve is short-lived. Tony is only a few paces behind her. Ben's body goes rigid with fear.
Come on, Zoe.
As Zoe realizes she's being shadowed, a hand comes around her side and, with a well-timed bash, the bag of chips flies upwards. Tony watches it hit the floor with a thump.
Boyfriend too scared to get his own chips, is he?
Zoe has gone bright red.
Hey, you're going to have to get me another portion. Or what?
Ben walks towards the unfolding action. Tony eyes the slowly approaching figure while Zoe continues to demand her replacement.
What does he think he's going to do? You better call him an ambulance.
Noting her friend's approach, Zoe forgets her anger. Tony struts towards Ben, fending Zoe off as she tries to run around him and get between the two males.
You stay there, love. He's all mine now.
Ben hesitates, then quickens his pace again, each step soon mirroring Tony's. Ben stretches out both palms, It is a type of conciliatory bridge.
Tony, can we all just...
Unfortunately, the answer is Tony's purple boot fired squarely between Ben's legs. Ben crumples to the ground. Zoe brings her fist down on Tony's back, her instinctive reaction eliciting a hollow resonation, as if she had just clumped a body-sized bell. The impressive sound is not echoed by an equally telling effect. Tony's fleeting smile, the result of watching Ben sink to the concrete, vanishes. Tony turns to face Zoe. Whack! He slaps her across the face. She freezes, the impact having provided an immediate dose of morning hair. Not content with the slap, Tony yanks her scarf, wrenching Zoe's head forward and simultaneously tearing the sunburst badge. The handiwork settles in a dark brown puddle and begins taking on discoloured water. Tony laughs and whispers a few words towards Zoe. Ben is on his knees looking up and doing his best not to be seen to be rubbing his crotch area. The sight of Zoe being hit, not least because it's due to a situation his cowardice manifested, galvanizes him to stand. Grabbing Ben by his collars, Tony helps him to his feet, only to send him back to the floor with the smash of his forehead against Ben's button-like nose. Ben cups his injury. Crimson trails seep between his fingers and drip onto the concrete. Tony circles his prey.
You're a joke, mate. Look at you. Pathetic. A useless...
Before Tony can complete his sentence, an outstretched arm catches him around the neck. Ben and Zoe look on in amazement as they watch Tony, legs flailing, being dragged off down the road.
You see that, Zoe? Our bus conductor just leaned out and grabbed him. Wow, and he looked just like my uncle. Really? What does your uncle do? Not exactly sure, but my mum doesn't like us to talk about him because he works for something she calls the cattle shifters, whatever that is.
Ben cautiously shakes his head. Even if he's not sure why, Zoe goes to giggle but manages to stop herself.
Are you okay, Ben? That looks pretty impressive. I'll be okay. It was almost worth it just to see that. Not the diet I wanted, but a few more drops of blood hit the pavement. At least I don't feel like chips anymore. Zoe hunts her pockets for a clean tissue. Ben looks up and whispers towards the cloudless sky. That really might have been an angel.